Hi, this is Howie Singer,
And Bill Rosenblatt.
authors of Key Changes, the 10 Times Technology Transformed the Music Industry.
You're listening to the Your Morning Coffee podcast with our friends Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Weekly music news for the new music business.
From Billboard, how AI is creating a wave of innovation and entrepreneurship that's reshaping the music industry.
From Financial Times, the music industry is suffering from a streaming hangover.
And from Billboard and music business worldwide, recent earnings calls from Universal Music, Warner Music, and SONY Music, what we have learned. So there's a lot to unpack today, Jay, isn't there? We are glad you are all here, and Jay and I are ready to start rocking right about now.
Stand by for transmission.
This is London calling.
Wake up! The revolution is at hand!
Your morning coffee is on the air. On the air. On the air. On the air. On the air.
Standing by.
Your morning coffee, the weekly music news for the new music business. It's the highly curated, agitated, advocated, moderated, and liberated digital music information that you need to know. We are your digital music authority. And now from our studios in Hollywood, California, here's your hosts, Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart.
Well, Jay, it is so good to see you. And
Good
as
to
we
see you.
always often do, we have been yapping for better part of an hour before we even hit record. It's always so fun.
And we could have gone a lot longer, but the show
right.
must go on.
The show must go on. Well, Jay, shocking news this week. Julie Greenwald to step down as Atlantic Music Group chairman in January. This is a piece that was in Variety from our friend Jim. Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk this week. You know, Atlantic Group chairman Julie Greenwald, she's going to exit the company entirely at the end of January, and that's according to Jem Oswald over at Variety. While she said, you know, she's been with Atlantic for 20 years, and she was expected to remain at the company as chairman, you know, after incoming CEO Elliot Grange takes his post in October. She announced her decision to leave at a staff meeting on Tuesday, and the news was first reported by Hits, by the way.
Yeah, so sources tell Variety that Greenwald reassured the staff, many of whom have worked with her for a decade or more, that she would be fine, that they should process the coming changes today, but to get back to work tomorrow and focus on supporting the label's artists and releases. A statement that was met with a cheer by the assembled staff. She also said she was supported in her decision by her mentor, former Warner Music chief Leor Cohen, who she said reminded her that she's Julie fucking Greenwald, one of the most successful music executives of the past 25 years. Her comments were described as classy by more than one person at the meeting. Wow.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah, she sure is. And when asked, you know, what advice would you give young executives who have been inspired by your rise? She said, you're going to have to work your ass off. We live in a day and an age of instant gratification. Everything is so available. She said, I devoted my 20s to working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I didn't get here by chance. And I know you and I are really looking forward to seeing what her next chapter is. I reached out to her and gave her a, congratulations. And I had the pleasure of working with Atlantic Records pretty closely for about 5 years. And they are one of the very best in the business.
Well, and you and I were speaking before we hit record about when Steve Ross died, the head of Warner Pictures, and all of the repercussions that happened back then. This would have been in the early 90s, and how devastating it was for the company. And in fact, it led to the rise of Universal Music, with a lot of those folks left. So it'll be interesting to see where Julie lands in the future, because
Yeah.
I can't think that she's ready to go away and sit on a beach and drink Mai Tais.
No, she's one of the best.
Yes. So in other news, special bonus episode coming soon. Former Spotify data alchemist Glenn McDonald, author of the new book, You Have Not Yet Heard Your Favorite Song, How Streaming Changes Music. Looking very forward to that for sure.
That's going to be a great conversation. That's coming up soon. And that's really to celebrate our 4th year anniversary of the Your Morning Coffee podcast. The newsletter is coming up on, well, it's 9.5 years, closing in on like 10 years at the beginning of next year. But this is our 4-year anniversary of the podcast. And we've had Glenn on, I think he was on last week. We've had him on a couple of times. Always a great conversation and a fantastic book. And so watch for that special bonus episode. And then speaking of podcast episodes, the Behind the Setlist podcast that I do with Billboard and Glenn Peoples, we just dropped that Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction. What a fantastic conversation that was. But I wanted to let our listeners know there's some interesting ones coming up. We have Daryl Hall. We have Lainey Wilson, Lindsey Sterling. If you haven't seen Lindsey Sterling, she's fantastic. Anyway, we have some really great Behind the Set List episodes coming up.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. And Jay, before we start into the stories, let's thank our sponsors. Big thanks to them because, man, we appreciate everything they do for us.
Yeah, we sure do. A special thank you to Music.ai. Music.ai is a trailblazing AI-powered music and audio platform offering an expansive suite of over 50 stackable AI audio solutions. Want to change the tempo or pitch of a song, adjust instruments or vocals, mute background noise? Music.ai makes it super easy. Embraced by record labels, agencies, tech firms, and developers, Music.ai is synonymous with audio innovation. With over 45 million users, their tools process over 2 million minutes of audio every day. They can process yours. Visit Music.ai to get started.
You betcha. And our podcast today is brought to you by friends over at Bandzoogle. Built by musicians for musicians, Bandzoogle is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to build a stunning website and online store for your music in minutes. All the features you need are already built in, including dozens of fully customizable templates, tools to sell your music and merch commission-free crowdfunding and fan subscription features, mailing list tools to grow your fan list, integrations with Bandcamp, SoundCloud, YouTube, Bands in Town, and more, so you can easily add content from your other online profiles, and live support from their musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Website plans start at just $8.29 a month, which includes hosting and your own free custom domain name. Our podcast listeners can jump over to bandzoogle.com to try it free for 30 days and use the promo code MORNINGCOFFEE, that's all one word, to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code MORNINGCOFFEE.
By the way, the Your Morning Coffee website was built with Bandzoogle.
I bet. Yes, that's right. Awesome.
We'd also like to thank Hypebot. Since 2004, Hypebot has chronicled the new music industry and the trends and technologies that are changing how music is discovered, consumed, marketed, and monetized. It's edited daily by founder Bruce Houghton with help from Alana Bonilla. Hypebot and sister blog Music Think Tank are published by live music discovery and marketing platform Bands in Town.
How about Bands in Town? Over 80 million live music fans trust Bands in Town to get personalized concert alerts, recommendations, and messages from their favorite artists. It's the #1 artist service platform connecting over 590,000 artists with their super fans. Managers, labels, agencies, and artists access their own dashboard to manage and promote their tour dates across all platforms.
Yeah, and a special thank you to Billboard Pro. You want to know what everybody in the music business is talking about? Get in the know with Billboard Pro. Billboard's offering Your Morning Coffee readers and listeners a special 50% discount off the price of your subscription. Just click on the link in Your Morning Coffee.
Indeed. So big thanks to our amazing sponsors, Bandzoogle, Music.ai, Hypebot, and Bands in Town. We could not do it without you. Speaking of can't do it without you, how about my buddy Jay Gilbert? I get to hang out with him every week, and he is coming up on 1,000 podcast episodes.
Can you believe that? That's crazy.
Insane. He is a music industry consultant, a curator of the weekly Your Morning Coffee newsletter, and a former executive with Universal Music, SONY Music, and Warner Music Groups.
Yeah, and I get to do this show every week with my good friend Mike Etchart, longtime host of Sound and Vision Radio, formerly of SST Records, Warner Music, Capital EMI, and Universal Music Group, where this whole thing started. All of those lunches and coffees and, hey, have you heard that new album? Did you read that book? What about that documentary? And we've been fast friends ever since. And I think it was when we started meeting at our favorite hamburger joint once in a while, pre-pandemic, we would talk. And one time, I don't know if it was you or me, said, yeah, we should do a Your Morning Coffee podcast and talk about some of these things. And anyway, it was over burgers and milkshakes that we figured this thing out, and it's just been so much fun.
And 209 episodes in. It's been a blast.
Plus the bonus episodes, right?
Plus the bonus episodes. That's right. So we've done a few ourselves. Well, Jay, let's jump into the stories. Our first one is from Billboard by Drew Thurlow and Rufi Anamgazi. I mispronounced that probably, so my apologies. How AI is creating a wave of innovation and entrepreneurship that's reshaping the music industry. As investors flood the music AI space, new companies are using the influx to help redefine the music industry. Man, that is an understatement.
Yeah, this is such a great piece, and this is this is a guest piece in Billboard. Really great by Drew and Rufi. And basically, we are in a transformative era in the music business and music technology. And the music industry will continue to experience growth throughout the decade, with total music revenue reaching approximately $131 billion by 2030, according to Goldman Sachs. This lucrative business is built on streaming now, but also witnessing an unprecedented surge in innovation and entrepreneurship in AI. So with over 300,000 tech and media professionals laid off since the beginning of 2023, 300,000. According to TechCrunch, a new wave of talent has been funneled into music tech startups.
Yeah, this influx, coupled with a dramatic decrease in cloud storage costs and the global rise of developer talent, has catalyzed the emergence of many startups, over 400 that we have tracked, dedicated to redefining the music business through AI. These music tech startups are not just changing the way music is made and released, they are reshaping the very fabric of the industry. They're well-funded too. After raising over $4.8 billion in 2022, music tech startups and companies raised almost $10 billion in funding in 2023. That's according to Digital Music News, indicating the venture capitalists and investors are highly optimistic about the future growth of music technology.
Right. And at the heart of this revolution is generative AI, a technology rapidly becoming indispensable for creators across the spectrum, from novices to professional artists and producers. AI-powered platforms offer unprecedented musical expression and innovation opportunities. It's now possible for users without any formal musical training to craft songs in many genres, effectively democratizing music production. Music fans and content creators can utilize products that score their social content, while seasoned musicians can use these tools to enhance their creative workflows.
So Dr. Maya Ackerman, who's the founder of Wave AI, a company that has introduced tools to aid human songwriters, said, "I like to think of generative AI as a new wave of musical instruments. The most useful AI tools for artists are those that the musicians can play, meaning that the musician is in full control, using the AI to aid in their self-expression rather than be hindered. These tools focus on generating vocal melodies, chords, and lyrics, emphasizing collaboration with musicians rather than replacing them."
Yeah, the piece goes on to say that for non-professionals, one ambitious company, Beethoven.ai, is building a product to generate music in a host of different ways for many different cases. Users can get a piece of music generated and customize it, per their content without much knowledge of music. The co-founder and CTO of Beethoven is Siddharth Bhardwaj, and he says, going forward, we're going to be capturing their intent in the form of multimodal input, that's easy for you to say, text, video, images, and audio, and getting them as close to their requirements as possible.
Right. So the article mentions the community and collaborative ecosystem. BandLab recently announced it has acquired a user base of 100 million, making it one of the biggest success stories in this arena. Founder Meng Ru Kwok says our strength lies in our comprehensive approach to our audience's needs. From the moment of inspiration to distribution, our platform is designed to be a complete toolkit for music creators and their journey. So, of course, there are several startups pioneering spaces where creators can collaborate, share insights, and support each other, heralding a new era of collective creativity.
Yeah, we love BandLab, and they're just a beast. 100 million monthly users with that, and we've had Meng on the show a couple of times, and we're just big fans of what they're doing over there. So they have this, they call it a toolkit for every aspect of music production. This landscape of music tech startups offers this comprehensive toolkit that really caters to every facet of the music creation process. So what is that? Okay, the first one is track and stem organization. Platforms like AudioShake, they simplify the management of tracks and stems, streamlining the production process.
Right. So there's also kind of the category of vocals and instrument addition. These technologies allow for the addition of any human voice or instrument sound to a recording environment, expanding the possibilities for frictionless creativity. And there's also talking about sound libraries. Services provider generate extensive libraries of samples, beats, and sounds, offering artists a rich palette in the process of writing music.
Yeah. Also in this toolkit, mix and master. The process of mixing and mastering audio has historically relied heavily on human involvement. However, several startups are utilizing AI technology to automate these services, for a more comprehensive audio production experience. Others offer the ability to convert stereo songs to spatial audio like Dolby Atmos and Sony 360.
Right. There's also kind of remixing and freelance musicianship. Many platforms offer creative and innovative solutions for remixing music. Additionally, some platforms allow users to easily source and connect with talented artists, session musicians, and other music professionals. Might you need an orchestra? There are tech platforms that can arrange and source one for you remotely. How cool would that be?
This is really cool. And then the last thing in this toolkit is really about the future of music tech, a vision of inclusivity and innovation. This more accessible and collaborative music ecosystem offers an exciting glimpse into the future where anyone can participate in the art of creation. The explosion of creators facilitated by these technologies also suggests a new economic opportunity for the industry to serving this growing creator class. And I had a chance to talk to Drew, who co-wrote this piece this week. He's a friend of the podcast, and we love his writing. And anyway, I spoke to Drew this week, and this is what he said about the piece. Drew, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
You co-wrote a guest column for Billboard this week with Rufi Anam Ghazi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right,
Yep.
about the recent influx of investors, talent, startups using generative AI in the music space. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so generative AI gets a lot of the headlines, but there's certainly a lot of activity in the music tech space, and there's reasons why. There's never been this many tech workers out of work, unfortunately. I think in the Billboard article we quoted 300,000 tech workers have been laid off since the beginning of 2023. Unfortunately, since we turned in this to the editors at Billboard a couple months ago, that number's gone up. The music space is well documented, so there's a lot of talent that's in the marketplace without real employment, and that the challenge of having startups has gone down. Dev work is easier and cheaper to find these days. Cloud storage costs are essentially free or close to it, so it's a lot easier for someone to ideate on something and then get it built up. And of the number of music tech startups that I'm tracking, it's about 460 at this point. It's really interesting to see the patterns, where the money's going, what the founders are trying to solve. And it's really poised to disrupt the industry.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who said, if you're trying to get money today from investors, you better have AI in your title. What are some of the AI startups that you discovered, for professional musicians and songwriters, but also for, DIY non-professionals?
Yeah, so this article that we wrote was specifically focused on the creators and artists and musicians. We do have more coming, another one on the more business side. So yeah, there's a lot of tools out there. Artists can do a lot themselves now, and something like, for instance, AI mastering. That's been solved for a few years now. I think TC Electronics pioneered that. They had an outboard unit maybe 15 years ago. Isotope's Ozone has been an AI mastering program that's been in existence for 7-8 years now. There's a great company I'm tracking called ROX, which is trying to do the same thing for mixing. And mixing is a lot harder of a kind of a challenge technologically, because instead of a stereo file, you're dealing with a mastering rather. Mixing, you could have how many ever stems in your DAW. So they're working on that. They're about to go into beta. I'm really excited for that. There's a whole host in the kind of distribution, but also track your royalties properly and make sure your splits are correct. There's a lot of them in the kind of community space where find like-minded communities to kind of focus group your music, meet other creators. And then, in the generative side, which gets the headlines, as you mentioned, a lot in the generative audio, and not just the kind of Sunos and Udios that get all the attention, but some more kind of specific use cases, like AI beats. That's, they have AI in their name. So they take your place. Beats with a Z, it's an AI beat generator, ethically trained and sourced, and gives creators a lot of freedom with the technology.
You point out that this landscape of music tech startups offers a comprehensive toolkit for creators of every facet of the music creation process. Talk about that toolkit a little bit.
Yeah, essentially it can replace anything and everything that you probably thought of where the business side need to be involved. You can learn how to play instruments with some of these techs. There's a handful that you learn how to play anything, bass, drums, guitars, DJ sequence, using these like interactive, innovative tools. Then you can record on some of these DAWs that will help you make your own music. In fact, Logic, this is probably the second biggest DAW outside of Pro Tools, now has AI generative tools to create keyboard and bass tracks right in your session. As a former session bass player, I don't know if that's terrifying or awesome, but it's certainly noteworthy. And then once you create the music, a platform like BandLab, which has its own DAW, you can create in there. You name your track, you can master it right in the same session with some of these AI mastering tools. You name it, press a button, you can send it to the DSP so you can distribute it. And then there's a whole other sector on how to market and work and garner fans and work social and create content and all that. But you basically, you can build your own toolkit with technology, and a novice can become a real artist pretty quickly.
It's moving really fast. Drew, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to the next one.
Thanks so much.
Wow, that's fascinating. I mean, this stuff is moving so fast. It's really amazing how far we've come just in a couple of years, and to say nothing of where it's going.
Yeah, it is really moving fast. And what a great piece, this guest piece in Billboard. So thank you, Drew.
All right, our next story is from the Financial Times by Anna Nicolau over there. The music industry is suffering from a streaming hangover. Wall Street is catching up with something that has been well known inside the music industry for some time now. That is the streaming growth spurt is over.
Oh, okay. Well, she goes on to say that the sirens began to sound late last month when industry leader Universal Music revealed that streaming revenue growth had slowed considerably in the last quarter. Chief Executive Lucian Grange urged investors to focus on the long term, while Chief Financial Officer Boyd Muir said he was not, quote, not overly concerned. Nonetheless, the news landed with a thud, slicing UMG's market valuation by more than 20% in one day.
Ouch. What is strange about the market reaction is that other warning signs have been around for more than a year. Last October, Universal Music announced a cost-saving program, and it's laid off hundreds of staff in recent months. Way back in March of 2023, rival Warner Music, of course, laid off 4% of its staff, and this February it declared plans to fire another 10%. Ugh.
Wow. Earlier this year, the chief executive at one large music company described the industry mood as, quote unquote, a hangover after several years of roaring growth. Universal's recent results were not all bad. The company behind Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, they still managed to increase revenue by 9% in the quarter. Ironically, the slowdown in streaming was offset by a strong showing for physical music because superfans are lapping up what they call the vinyls.
Yes, they are. But Wall Street is focused on streaming, and for good reason. Revenue from streaming makes up half of Universal Music's total business. Spotify is what saved the industry, reversing decades of industry decline as more and more people signed up for music streaming services. In the past several years, UMG and its rivals have enjoyed streaming revenue growth of 20% or higher. Streaming has brought renewed interest from the world's largest investors, like the likes of Blackstone and KKR, to the music business, and made some billionaires such as Sir Len Blavatnik even richer. Sorry, Len.
The piece goes on to say that Universal's market correction is really a repricing of expectations for the entire industry, and probably a reasonable one. For the past several years, big banks have doled out optimistic projections for the music business, but Spotify is no longer new, and the market for streaming in the U.S. has long saturated. There are many more millions of subscribers to be found across the globe, though, but a lot of that growth is coming from markets like India, where people pay a fraction of the price of a subscription, compared to the West.
Right. So Universal executives appear to blame Apple and Amazon for the recent slowdown. On an earnings call, Muir said that while Spotify and YouTube Music have continued to exhibit healthy growth, other large partners have seen a slowdown in new subscriber additions. Amazon's music service in particular has flatlined, according to sources, after receiving a boost during the pandemic.
Well, Universal and its peers are working to try to reignite that growth. They have spent much of the last year plotting their superfan offering on Spotify and other streaming platforms that would charge the most ravenous fans for more money in exchange for perks, such as access to music or merchandise. Universal hopes to roll out this superfan thing this year.
Universal executives believe that as much as 20% of Spotify subscribers could sign up for this super premium offering, which Spotify chief Daniel Ek has said could cost $17 or $18 a month. That's up to 50% more than an existing subscription. Lucian Grange said, "We are at the beginning of the next phase, part 2 phase of streaming and subscription. It's a whole suite of products," he said.
Yeah, well, the piece goes on to say that the sky is not falling. Music companies remain in a more desirable position than legacy television, movie studios, who are still in the midst of a painful industry-wide restructuring. Universal has told investors it will continue to deliver high single-digit growth. On Wednesday, Warner Music Group reported streaming revenue growth of 5.5% in the last quarter.
Right. So market corrections happen. Netflix experienced one in 2022 when it became clear that the streamer was entering a more mature stage. The stock price has since climbed back up. Grange will be hoping for a similar turnaround. Next month, Universal Music is hosting its first Investor Day since going public back in 2021 at the legendary Abbey Road studio in London. It's a chance for the company to convince Wall Street that the music industry can thrive in this next phase.
At Abbey Road?
Interesting. Yes.
They must have lost my invite. I was
just going to say, I'm going to go back and through my emails and find that invitation. As the article correctly pointed out, this week was a brutal week for the movie studios. And so, there's a lot of stuff again in this. We've seen this. We've been around long enough to see this sort of teeth gnashing and things that, in new tech, and as things change, it's painful, and it's not a straight line up. That's for darn sure.
That's right. And so let's break down some of these recent earning calls. There were great pieces this week. Of course, Glenn Peoples and his Billboard newsletter, The Ledger. There were pieces from the fantastic team over at Music Business Worldwide. So we're just going to sort of recap those for, these earnings calls for Universal Music Group, Warner Music Group, and Sony Music Group. And so let's start with Universal Music Group.
Right. So Universal Music sales beat expectations in second quarter. That was the perfectly accurate headline from Reuters minutes after Universal Music Group confirmed its Q2 2024 results back on the 24th of July. A few moments later, Sir Lucian Grange trumpeted the same theme in his opening address of UMG's earning calls.
Yeah, this is what he said. He said, "This was our 7th consecutive quarter of double-digit increases in adjusted EBITDA. confirming that UMG's revenues were up around 11%, year over year for the quarter, with EBITDA up around 10% year over year. He added, quote, "Our ability to deliver sustainable growth like this quarter after quarter is a product of how we've designed UMG." Then the storm began.
That's the storm. As Music Business Worldwide covered last month, one stat in particular within UMG's Q2 results, despite those record overall revenues, sent investment analysts into meltdown. UMG's subscription streaming revenues in the quarter were up 6.9% year over year. That's at constant currency.
Yeah, and that's decent growth, but not decent enough growth for some of UMG's financial observers who were looking for a number closer to around 11% year over year. A flurry of analyst downgrades, Guggenheim, Citi, Barclays, Wells Fargo, that followed. And as did a shocking quote unquote correction to UMG's share price, which remains around 25% lower than it did Q2 pre-earnings. Reuters even updated its headline, Universal Music Group shares drop 30% as streaming growth disappoints.
Ouch, 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 ouch. Well, let's jump over to Warner Music Group. Warner Music Group's latest quarterly results delivered yesterday, that was August 7th, by CEO Robert Kyncl, had one key stat at their heart. Warner's recorded music streaming revenues across ad-funded and subscription climbed 10.2% year over year on a constant currency and like-for-like basis. The firm's recorded music subscription streaming revenues specifically did even better, up 13.7% year over year on the same basis.
Yeah, and Wall Street's relief was quickly written all over the stock market in the wake of Warner Music Group's results. Warner and Universal Music Group's share prices rose 1.9% and 6.5% respectively. Implosion averted.
Well, let's jump to the SONY Music Group. SONY's global music rights operation across recorded music and music publishing generated $2.54 billion in the 3 months to the end of June of 2024. That's according to Music Business Worldwide's calculations based on SONY Music Group's calendar Q2 2024. That's fiscal Q1 2025 results as announced by the Japanese firm back on August 7th.
Yeah, so that $2.54 billion figure, that was up 11.4% year over year at U.S. dollar converted constant currency, if you're keeping up on those things. In monetary terms, Sony's overall music rights operation, that's recorded music plus music publishing, generated approximately $261 million more in calendar Q2 than in the prior year quarter.
So Sony's global recorded music operations generated $1.92 billion in calendar Q2 of 2024. That's up 10.8% year over year versus the equivalent quarter period of the prior year. Within that calendar Q2 2024 global recorded music result, streaming generated $1.26 billion. That's up about 5% year over year. Quarterly revenues from physical music sales in calendar Q2 2024 hit $156.6 million. That's actually down 16.9% year over year. So a lot of interesting things to look and contemplate and think about. And, the analysts only like it when it goes up. And if it doesn't go up.
There's only so much growth as we sort of mature in streaming. And, I don't think anybody's sounding the alarm. It's just that the growth is slowing as more and more people, become streamers. It was really interesting, especially that Financial Times piece and great coverage from Glenn Peoples at Billboard and Tim's team over at Music Business Worldwide. Fantastic stuff. And the last thing, there's been a lot of talk in the news lately about Pandora. They're doing some really interesting innovations. And what I love about Pandora is they do a lot of education and online tutorials and presentations that you can be a part of. And they really help people to understand the platform. And I had a chance to sit down with Michelle Soloman from Pandora this week about some of this growth and some of these innovations. So let's listen into that conversation with Michelle over at Pandora. Michelle, so good to see you. Thanks for joining me this morning.
Thank you so much, Jay.
Pandora's announced some improvements with artist profiles, artist insights. Tell us about them.
Yeah, for sure. So we're incredibly excited to share a whole bunch of improvements that we designed to make life easier for artists, their teams, and their fans, both on the Pandora platform and within AMP, aka our artist marketing platform, which is Pandora's suite of free creator tools. So first, let's go over artist profiles, Pandora artist profiles. So now artists can now showcase music and podcasts with a new feature called Spotlight Picks. While other music services typically only allow you to choose one item to promote, on Pandora AMP, you can choose up to 10 items across a variety of content types from Pandora's full catalog, whether it's a new album or single release or curated station or playlist, or even a podcast. This section is yours to mix and match picks however you wish. You can even set start and end flight dates for your picks, so you can do this in advance. And once you've added Spotlight picks, they will remain visible to fans on your Pandora artist profile for up to 6 months. So moving on to artist insights improvements in Pandora AMP, artists and their teams can use the Insights tab on the Artist AMP dashboard to help gain a clear picture of how your music performs on Pandora. So we're excited to roll out a fresh new look along with some additional features to that section. In the programming placement section, you can now view all of the current editorial programs that include any of your tracks. With artist metrics, we offer multiple graphs and views displaying your overall performance on Pandora. And for the first time ever, you'll be able to download a CSV report directly from AMP. AMP is a separate platform from Pandora. It is only available on desktop for now. It is not that mobile friendly, unfortunately. We will be launching an AMP app in the near future. And while Pandora is still available to listeners in the US, international artists and their teams can access AMP to view their data and create campaigns like Pandora Stories to share out with their American fans.
Where can our listeners learn more about Pandora, AMP, Stories, all of that?
So to get started, visit amp.pandora.com to log into AMP and claim your AMP artist or label profile. My team, the Creator Services team, we exist to remind everybody about Pandora and AMP, our artist marketing platform. It's a set of free and powerful tools for creators. So whether you're an experienced AMP user or if you've been meaning to get around to signing up and learning to use AMP eventually, AMP can be an extremely valuable part of any creator's toolkit. I have to mention Pandora Stories real quick because that's a tool that's very unique to Pandora, available to creators of all types, not just musicians, that gives creators the ability to make playlists and stations with your own voice commentary. Share behind the scenes stories and musical influences. Think DIY radio show or podcast. We have an amazing resource guide called the AMP Playbook, ampplaybook.com, for more information on all the creator tools we offer. That includes step-by-step guides, one-sheets, and FAQs. For any questions, email amp-support@pandora.com. We have an awesome, dedicated team here to assist you. And lastly, my team has been hosting free monthly webinars, Intro to AMP webinars, and office hours webinars since 2020, and we're not stopping. At the Intro to AMP webinar, you'll get an in-depth walkthrough of all the AMP tools and how to create campaigns and Pandora stories in real time. This free webinar is held every first Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. In addition, we hold open office hours over Zoom every second Wednesday of the month where you can come in and talk to the folks on my team. It's very free form. We can help with any questions you might have, whether they be technical issues, creative ideas, best practices, anything you want. Both of these webinars are a really great way to connect with my team, the Creator Services team, and to learn all about AMP or just to fill in any gaps in your AMP knowledge. So to sum it up, we want to help you find new fans. We want to help you strengthen the connections with your existing fans, help you get more spins, help you share your art with the people that will love and appreciate it. Basically, we want to help you do what you love to do. And yes, we know that many folks tend to overlook Pandora as a streaming platform. And ever since we were acquired by SiriusXM several years ago, our combined properties reach the largest addressable audience in the US across all categories of digital audio, music, sports, talk, and podcast. So I'm really proud to represent this company for going on 20 years and do outreach and education. And just to let you know that along with the other services, you should definitely be putting some of your resources into Pandora.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Oh, good stuff. I've always loved Pandora. It's such a unique product in the marketplace. It's sort of neither fish nor fowl, but it's so wonderful. And
it is
and
neither fish nor fowl. And thank you for bringing that up. That is a really apt description. And they're just really great people. Over there, Andy, Michelle, all those people, they're music freaks. When you sit down to have coffee or lunch with them, it's just like when you and I go to have our burgers and shakes. It's hilarity will ensue, and you will be talking about music.
Yeah, absolutely. So we tip our hats and great fans, et cetera. So on that note, we're going to wrap up the episode. We want to thank everyone for listening, and Jay and I do not take it for granted at all. So if you enjoy the show, please tell one friend. We would certainly appreciate it. And big thanks to our good friends over at Bandzoogle, Music.ai, Hypebot, and Bands in Town. So on behalf of my good friend Jay Gilbert, I am Mike Etchart. We thank you for listening in today, and we'll see you next time on the Your Morning Coffee Podcast.
You've been listening to Your Morning Coffee, the weekly music news program for the new music business. Join Jay Gilbert and Mike Etchart next time for the digital music news you need to know.